Coming to you from the Black Swan Media Studios, this is Fireside Chats, talking to the real difference makers in the world. Now, here is your host, John Crumbs. This is Fireside Chats.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. There was a little mix up with the audio here, but I got it fixed. Okay. So, today, before we get into everything, I just want to pitch a couple different products here that I have. Super Chats is now active. You can give a Super Chat, and you can get a signed copy of a book for $25. All proceeds go to my niece, who is suffering from DIPG. DIPG is a debilitating brain cancer, and it affects a lot of kids. There's no cure for it, so you have to fight it with traditional stuff and trials, and that gets kind of expensive. So everything I do here goes to my niece. That includes $5 Patreons. Get this, $20 Patreons get the book. I'll throw my Patreon up, or Super Chats, $5 as well. We'll get this. So if you are generous, you can do that. One of the generous people that I do know, his name is Austin, and he is from a company called MantisX. MantisX is something I've been using for years, and it's really helped me improve my shots and shot placements. Well, I'll let him describe what it is, but it's a little device that hooks up to your phone that is incredibly awesome. So let me go ahead and bring him in so we can talk about this device. His name is Austin, and he is from MantisX. How you doing?
Great to be here. Thanks for having me on, John.
Yeah, no problem. We had a little bit of a hiccup when we were coming on. Things didn't exactly go as planned when we were syncing up with all the different sources, but it looks like we're good to go from right now.
Perfect.
So, why don't you tell everyone out there what MantisX is? Because I think it's incredible.
Well, thank you. MantisX is a tool. It's not a toy. It's a tool, and it's really designed to help every shooter suck less. So whatever that threshold is for how you want to improve or maybe not get worse, Mantis is there to help out. So shooting is a perishable skill. It's not complicated, but it can be difficult, and Mantis is really there to assist you. So that's kind of the core ethos of what we do. What MantisX is at its core is this little tiny sensor. There's a little motion sensor. Has precision gyroscope, accelerometer, magnetometer on there, and it attaches to the rail of your firearm, or an adapter that we have that puts a Picatinny rail there, and it analyzes the movement patterns while you're shooting. And it gives you all this feedback over Bluetooth to an app on the smartphone or tablet that tells you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, how you can correct what you're doing wrong. It gives you that real-time feedback that really helps the subneural pathways in your brain make connections and learnings that you couldn't otherwise make quite as efficiently. Now, could you become a proficient shooter without whiz-bang technology? Absolutely. Can whiz-bang technology help you accelerate the pace at which you learn to shoot? Absolutely. So that's what we're talking about today, and that's a quick overview of how the product itself works. We came out with a product 5 years ago. The first version we launched in Gen 2 last year. A few different versions, anywhere from dry fire only to live fire and dry fire, as well as pistols, rifles, shotguns. We launched a version for archery as well earlier this year. So a lot in basically motion analytics and improving shooting technique across all platforms. That's what we do.
Now, what is your background? That's one of the things that I wondered to come up with something like this. Very technical. It's not something that I'm a gun guy and I just decided to do this.
Yeah. So let me say I'm part of a team. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, so I'm not the brains behind how this thing works. The idea came from a bunch of us talking about it while we were out shooting one day and saying, you know what, we wish we could get really some objective quantitative feedback on our shooting, not just this subjective, I kind of felt like this, or maybe it did that. Like, takes out the guesswork. We want hard data. Technology can measure this. We wanted that data for ourselves and analytics for ourselves. And so we built it. Now, we say I had ideas, but in terms of the technological expertise, we got engineers that are super smart that do all the really important work. I have an electrical engineering background in school and education. That does not mean I'm any good at doing it in real life, but I can understand enough pieces of it to kind of talk about options, possibilities, things that are working, things that aren't. So that's my background. really more of a generalist now, jack of all trades, master of none. So kind of do whatever needs to be done at the company. Part of the founding team. Yeah, day to day is very, very different, but at the core, we're a technology driven company. So most of our employees are engineers. We have one marketing guy. Again, but we're all about just building a great product that works for us first and foremost, and then we put it out there on the market.
Yeah, I am an engineer myself. That's one of the things that really drove me to MantisX, because I like, because people don't realize that software can give you a lot more data than just someone sitting there looking at you. But from using MantisX, my shots have dramatically improved, because it picks up on things that you don't really realize that is there, that's actually there, which is incredible. How has the reaction been to MantisX in the shooting community?
Great question. So it's been very, very positive. We've been fortunate to have a lot of widespread adoption and recognition, because the reality is, another one of our mantras is that the data does not lie. And the data that we present, as well as the data and the results that shooters get, that's really the validation of the product. So just like you, people are like, yeah, I improved very, very quickly, better than I thought I would. I was surprised at how quickly I improved. That's the feedback that says, okay, this product is working. There are, there's a segment of the industry, individuals within the industry that view technology as a threat or view technology as a gimmick, and which in some cases it is. There are very much gimmicky things out there and threats to people's jobs. I think some instructors initially were kind of scared a little bit, because it does give instructive coaching feedback. There are very specific coaching tips based off of the heuristical analysis that it does of your motion patterns to say, okay, based off of this movement pattern, it could be likely caused by trigger finger placement or the way that you're gripping the firearm, stuff that an instructor would typically coach you through. So some skepticism, some criticism from instructors initially once they hadn't played with it. But at the end of the day, the data does not lie, and we put it in hands and talk to a lot of these instructors, and after they use it and see the value, they become believers. So a lot of top shooters in the world, competitive shooters as well as instructors, are using Mantis and speak very, very highly of it, which we are grateful for.
Yeah, one of the things that I've used when I've instructed is I've actually, because I'm also an instructor, I've actually worked in using the Mantis with my students. And
that's I think what makes you probably a good instructor to never take a class from you, but that realization that there's certain things the human eye can see, and there's certain things that the human eye cannot see. And these are the things an instructor can see, and these are the things that an instructor can't see, and Mantis can fill in the gaps of what the human eye can't see. We just can't sample fast enough. And when that bang goes off in live fire, so much happens. Our bodies, and we feel so much, our bodies can kind of try to recreate the story of what happened, and it can sometimes lie and tell an incorrect story. But then when you present the accurate data, then it helps train the mind to say, oh, this is actually what really happened, and I'm going to respond to it in this way. So a more effective learning process. So like you, a lot of instructors are finding that it accelerates their pace at which they can provide valuable instruction.
Yeah, our chats are working, by the way, so I'm getting messages. So I'm trying to read them. So if you're writing on the duck, I don't know if it's the duck or if it's a restring that breaks the chats a lot, but whatever. We can do it. One of the questions that we are getting is Tesla in their self-driving program samples everything around it thousands of times.
Mm-hmm.
I know Mantis is older than the Tesla driving system, so somebody asked if you got inspiration from that. But when they brought that up, I've never really thought about that, but there is a lot of similarities between the Tesla driving system, how it samples everything like thousands of times a second, and the Mantis.
Right.
Have you ever thought about that? The similarity?
I've never compared us to Tesla. They have a lot of really smart people there, a lot of money behind them, a totally different market, totally different industry. Yeah. But fascinating, because
I never thought about that.
Yeah, but because one thing I admire about Tesla, and Elon Musk, their founder, does that with all his companies that I appreciate, is when they create a product or a service what they do is kind of a first order principle design process. So rather than saying we want an electric car that goes fast and looks cool, okay, we need batteries, we need electric drivetrain, we need, all the typical hood stuff and frame and other stuff like that. What they did is they said, well, instead of just taking an off-the-shelf battery and putting it together with an off-the-shelf electric drivetrain, what we're going to do is we're going to design a better battery. So getting down to like first order principles, design a battery that really works for our intended purposes. And when they looked at SpaceX, one of his other startups, it's not really a startup anymore, but they, a lot of the competitors were just kind of cobbling together bits and pieces from that had already been designed, and they said, well, no, we're going to go back and really redesign those core pieces and build from the ground up the fundamentals of what we're doing. The accelerometers and gyroscope that we put inside Mantis, these were not designed to go on firearms, and we've had discussions with the manufacturers of these electronics saying, we're using them in an application that you've never tested, designed for, built for. What can we do? How can we work within that? But we had to get down to core principles to understand what the limitations were and how we can compensate for that within the firmware and the software and the mechanicals and everything else to really make this work in an application for which it was never really designed. So we are definitely, we are nowhere in the same dimension as Tesla per se. I do admire a lot of their thinking approach. And from an engineering and design perspective, there may be some parallels in terms of trying to solve a problem that hasn't been solved before. Let's get down to the really root core fundamentals and solve it from the ground up rather than trying to put this modular solution that may or may not work together at the end of the day.
Yeah. Budget Guns and Gear Review, apparently they have a review on the Mantis coming out. The MantisX. He said he had trouble with his old phone, but when he upgraded his new phone, it worked with his new phone. And he's fallen passionately in love with the thing. And the video and the article's coming out soon, and it's going to be positive.
Well, I hope his passionate love affair with Mantis does not negatively affect his marriage.
Yeah. It's everyone who have used it. People who I've had use it who are very, very skeptical, because in the gun community you find a lot of really old school people, and I've tried it with a very old school person who uses a flip phone. And I got my phone out and I let him use it, and then he kept on borrowing not only the Mantis but my phone. And he ended up actually getting a Samsung Galaxy, and also bought the Mantis from you guys because he wanted to use it. So the only reason why he has a smartphone now is because of the Mantis. Old school.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. That's awesome to see. We've seen people buy tablets and phones for that very purpose, and we support that adoption of technology in as much as you need. If you don't need a smartphone for making phone calls, like, use a flip phone. Like, more power to you. Like, there's way more on this phone than we could ever use. But again, for Mantis, you got to use it. It's got to connect over Bluetooth to some smart device.
Yeah, but you actually gave me a headache because now he's trying to use the smartphone for other stuff.
and he wants instruction with that now too.
Well, he's almost 80. So he has no idea about technology. He doesn't even own a computer. But now he owns a smartphone just because of the Mantis.
That's funny. That's really funny.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of instructors start to use it in their classes, even though that they were afraid of it at first. I would be what you call an early adopter of technology. I use a lot of technology before it's used in
widely adopted.
Yeah. One of the things I used to do in my old career before I got into firearms journalism and stuff like that is I used to work for big companies doing engineering products, like Facebook. I worked for Facebook back in the day. A lot of people don't know that because Facebook hates me, but I used to work for them.
What did you do for them?
Engineering. I designed a lot of the stuff that you use on the actual Facebook page. Did some programming. Did a lot of the back end traffic engineering of how like the traffic gets from the data centers to the pops out to the people. because we have 40. They have 48 which is terabytes of bandwidth for each data center. So that's how much data is traveling.
That's crazy.
And that takes a lot of engineering to get 48 terabytes a second out to the public.
That's crazy. So when did you leave Facebook?
Like a little bit over a year ago.
Okay. How long were you there for?
3 years.
Okay.
It was just something that my firearms journalism kind of took off. And although I don't make as much money as I did there, I enjoy it a lot more. And their anti-gun bias just got a little bit too much for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit over the top. It's way over the top.
Oh yeah.
And then the problem is they have like for a gun company like ours or someone in the industry, we don't sell guns, but sell an accessory that really could go on anything. Like we use it on bows, right? So it really an innocuous device. They have third-party reviewers, in third world countries that are looking at, posts that we make or ads that we might try to put up, and they don't understand it. All they see is gun equals bad, and it makes it very hard to make stuff or allow stuff to go through. So glad you made the switch. Money isn't everything, and you can't buy happiness and job satisfaction with money. So
yeah. I mean, it was a cushy job, I would say. Just you didn't have to buy your food. They bought food for you, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they actually paid for your family's dinner and breakfast too.
Huh. So you put on 50 pounds?
Yeah, they called it the Facebook 20. Because they had really good. I mean, they had world class chefs. So you go in there and you get a full rack of ribs for lunch or a filet mignon and whatever.
That's crazy.
But it just wasn't worth it to me.
Yep.
I am principled. Yeah. So there is a lot of tech in that little package. People don't realize how little that is. When I was talking to one of my friends about the Mantis, he was like, "Well, I don't want to put a big device on my gun." I'm like, "You have a light on your gun. This is a lot lighter than that light."
Yeah, this is actually here's our Gen 1 in the background, and here's our Gen 2. So Gen 1, Gen 2. So you can see that the original one was quite a bit bigger, but still smaller than a light, unless you're looking at a small subcompact light. But then the second gen, it's about 40% smaller and half the weight. So we're working hard to make it even more unobtrusive on the firearm.
Yeah, I have a Gen 1. And it doesn't really add any weight. How many patents do you have on that thing?
So there's just one patent. Actually, just got issued. I mean, it takes forever for stuff to get issued.
Yeah, people don't realize a patent. You have patent pending, and that's why a lot of products you see patent pending.
Right, and it can be pending for quite a while.
Yeah, I have several that are outstanding.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. And you can't talk about. I guess you can. You can talk about them because they're pending, right?
Yeah, one is a data miner. It's a little touch screen, and you can put in terms or what you want to look for, and it monitors all social media, which is Facebook, Twitter, basically 20 different social media platforms, even stuff like Gap and stuff that's not really used for. And it looks for terms for example, well, it does a couple different things. You can search the term explosion, right? And there's a threshold. So if there's some people are tweeting about and sharing posts about an explosion within a 20-mile radius, there's something going on here. So it's news gathering type stuff.
Interesting. So if I lived in Racine, Wisconsin, which is right next to Kenosha, Wisconsin, I could have gotten an alert that maybe there's a significant event happening last night and the night before with the riots going on there.
Yep. Yeah, you would. Usually, when I was beta testing it, the terrorist attack on a bridge in London, and I got that notification 45 minutes before the news actually posted it.
Interesting. And it allows you to really, I guess, cater the news you want to hear, right? Because what's on the news is what they want you to hear, right? But if you have an interest in a specific area that's of concern to you, it gives you a better gateway into that. Very cool.
Yeah. The software is the big thing, but I built it with a Raspberry Pi with the touchscreen, so you don't really need a computer. You can just plug it in or connect it to via Wi-Fi.
Interesting.
To anywhere and just have a little screen.
Okay. Very cool.
And there's another thing that have a celebrity tracker feature on there. So you can put in the name Keanu Reeves, for example, or Tom Cruise, and we'll start plotting where people are tweeting about seeing them at. So if you're paparazzi, you can look up a celebrity and pull exactly where they've been and where they are.
Interesting. And they pay big money for that.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, though, to tell you the truth.
But the fun is in the creation process, right?
Yeah, that's exactly why I've never created it to sell it or anything. I just did it because.
It was itchy up the scratch, right?
Yeah, just like my Crumpy app, which is coming out in the next couple of days once it gets approved by Google.
What's the Crumpy app going to do?
Several different things. All the live streams are going to be fed right to the app, so you get a push notification live stream, so you can just pull it up and watch it directly from the app. All my videos are going to be accessible from there, and all my writing for AmmoLand and everything else will be accessible for there. And I do a lot of investigative journalism, so there's also a tip line, so you can go to a tip line and put an anonymous tip about something.
Interesting. Very cool.
Yeah, I got bored the other night.
So you whooped it out in a night?
Yeah, basically.
That's cool.
Well, the first night, actually, the first night I had to teach myself how to program an app, and the second night I actually programmed it.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, your app development. Let's get into your app development. Did you guys do that in-house, or did you hire a outside company to develop the app? Because a lot of people don't develop their own apps. Most people don't, actually.
We hired the Chinese and the Russians. I'm kidding. No, it's all in-house. We don't let anyone else touch our apps. It's all done in-house. So we have total control over what happens. We can iterate on it very quickly. If there's a bug we got to squash, we squash it right away. And again, we own everything soup to nuts. So we did all the design ourselves, all the programming ourselves. We do all the manufacturing assembly ourselves. We do everything shipping, so that we take a lot of pride in the products we create, and we want to make sure that every step along the way, we're doing our very best to put something in the hands of somebody that just delights them and makes them a better shooter.
Yeah, that is something that's actually very rare in today's technology-driven world. Most app development is outsourced, and most stuff is outsourced. You have these shell companies that actually take technology from everywhere and put it out there. So you are from Wisconsin, in Kenosha, man. Some crazy stuff going on there.
It's some crazy time. And we saw, I live in Illinois now, but we saw similar things when the George Floyd riots happened. But every time something like this happened, it's just another, burst at the seams of something popping. Crazy to see that close to where I grew up. We had some riots not too far from our offices here, about 10 miles away.
Wow.
Where a couple cars burned and some stuff like that. No shootings, fortunately, but I feel like there's just kind of a lot of tinder, really dry tinder, ready to burst into flames at certain points in time. What was interesting though about Wisconsin is that there seems to be an increase in the self-defense side. People standing up and saying we're not going to take this, and we're willing to protect ourselves from violence, and if that requires us to be violent in that process, then we will do so, which is something that we haven't seen much of up to this point. So we'll have to see how it evolves.
Yeah, that is definitely interesting. A couple of people got shot last night. They charged the kid with murder, but if I watched the videos, I haven't seen the whole thing, but I just watched videos, wrote an article about it. It does appear like the first guy that shot him throwing a Molotov cocktail, and the other guy for chasing them. But I don't have the complete story, so I really can't make a final judgment on that. But they are charging their first degree murder. I doubt that will stick because that's have to be premeditated, and none of it looked premeditated to me. But I'm not a lawyer, so what do I know?
Yeah.
With all the stuff, all the rioting and the coronavirus going on, there is a huge shortage of ammo. People bring it up, and a lot of people are turning to systems like the MantisX to practice because they don't have the ammo to waste. Have your sales went up since then because of the ammo shortage?
Yeah. So, well, we saw it start with when COVID started hitting. Just in general, people started, when guns started going off the shelves, our sales, we've been on this generally increasing trend since we started selling products, just because adoption's increased, its utility, and a lot of people are still not aware of what Mantis is. But when COVID hit, that kind of saw it increase a fair step change. When the riots for the George Floyd riots hit, another kind of step up, just because people were concerned about the ability to defend themselves. And then the ammo shortage is freaking people out. Again, it's all tied together. But from a training perspective, since Mantis works with dry fire as well as live fire, people are understanding, and this is fantastic news, is that it's forcing people to understand that you can train dry fire and get the same feedback, the same training. The only thing you're missing is recoil management and then sight acquisition on your subsequent follow-on shots. But in terms of everything, grip, trigger, situational awareness, all that stuff, that's all, you can do everything in dry fire. And so if people aren't a believer in dry fire yet, become a believer, because it works. You can use Mantis, you can use other systems, you can use nothing at all, but that dry fire practice, Mantis gives you feedback in dry fire that helps you really not ingrain bad habits, but really develop good habits out the gate. But it impacts your live fire capability 100%. All the best shooters in the world, unless they have free access to ammo or unlimited free access to ammo, like a few of them do, but all the rest of them, they do 80 to 90% of their training dry fire. We did a study 2 years ago where we looked at a subset of 10 million shots that people had used Mantis on to say, what happens, what's the correlation between live fire and dry fire training? And what we found is that in live fire, let's say you're a right-handed shooter, the number one issue people have when they're shooting live fire is they go low left. The anticipation of the recoil, slapping the trigger, pulling down, like that's the most common issue. We looked at dry fire data, and when people are dry firing, what's the number one issue? They're going low left. And it was surprising at first. It was like, well, I thought that people would have a different psychological mindset, a different physiological response when they are doing dry fire versus live fire, but the reality is they don't. Like, our bodies are trained, they're machines. And whether it's practice or real, like, we do the same thing over and over and over. So if we nail it in practice, we'll do it the same way when we're doing it, quote unquote, for real. So when we're doing something in dry fire, we've got a bad habit, rooted out in dry fire, that issue will be rooted out in live fire as well. So the ammo shortage has been good for business. I hate, I don't like taking advantage of, I don't like the feeling of taking advantage of a crisis, and we're not taking advantage of it per se, but I do like the awareness.
Right time.
Yeah. We're in a good place, fortunately, right now. What I do like about the situation is that people are responding to it rationally, in the sense of, oh, I need to do something about this. If I feel concerned, I feel unprepared, I need to, get the gear I need, and I need to learn how to use that gear, because I realize that if I'm like that couple in St. Louis that's just kind of waving, muzzling everybody, waving the gun around, like, I can get lambasted on the internet, and that's actually not good firearm safety, and I actually need to train with my firearm. So dry fire practice, believe in it, do it, train with it, get feedback with it. Mantis helps with that, other systems help with that. But it's if something's going to improve your confidence, it's that dry fire training.
Right. Starting the company, how hard was that? Was that you just got together with the people and said, we're going to start up, or because that's what a lot of people fear, is starting out. I have this awesome idea. I think it's $1 million idea, but I'm too afraid to go for it. So I'm going to put it in the back of my mind.
Right. So I'll use an analogy that I have no personal understanding with, but I'll make the analogy anyways. I feel like starting a company is like getting pregnant. It's kind of easy, but the hard part is giving birth. and raising it. So it's easy to get around and put together some ideas and say, hey, yeah, let's do this. And you kind of get pregnant with an idea, you start running with it. But then the process of like, you got this baby growing inside you, and you got to feed it and nurture it and do the right things and change your lifestyle around it to really, and then you give birth to it. And that's a painful process. And then you got to care for it, make it grow up even bigger. So starting is the easy part, but actually bringing it to market and getting widespread adoption and building it into something else that can be sustainable and continue funding the continued development of the product is a whole other animal. So I remember we were fortunate to hit profitability fairly early on, but I remember when we hit that, it was kind of like, like you just ran a marathon and realizing that you got another one you got to run right after that. Worth it? Absolutely. Like, would we do it any other way? No. But easy to start, hard to kind of get across the finish line and even mid race, but very, very satisfying to do. But again, you can't, as easy as it is to start, as hard as it is to get to fruition, like you just got to start it. There's no holding back. Nothing's going to get you there unless you start it.
Yeah, Obnoxious wants to know if you guys have done any type of testing with Cool Fire training. He knows that you have a CO2 pistol option, but he's wondering if the system would work with that too.
Yeah, so MantisX works on live fire, dry fire, as well as CO2 systems. So it could be a blowback pistol. I have one here that I won't show on the screen. Office. Cool Fire Trainer makes a great system that you put a barrel in, replace the barrel with their barrel, and it you fill it up with green gas and it recoils or provides some movement. It's nothing recoils like a real bullet, obviously, but provides movement, and that's kind of simulated movement and how you reacquire your sights and a little bit more feel there. So yeah, it works with those systems as well, no problem. And that's a great training option as well. We do have a product that we just launched, are getting close to officially launching. We took pre-orders because some stuff leaked out. We actually showed it off at SHOT Show, but it's a product called Blackbeard for AR training. And it's not a CO2 system, it's an electromechanical system where and I can't show you because I can't show big black scary things online.
No, it's crazy. It was just the algorithm or whatever they use on the AI that monitors all video feeds knocks it off. And I have some friends that work over at Google and Alphabet and stuff like that. And it's not because they're anti-gun. It's because there was a rash of suicides online. So no, they just built it too. If you can show a gun, but you can't show it in your hand. So if you can point the camera and not hold the gun, then you were A-okay. But once the AI detect your hand touch it, it goes.
Interesting. Okay, well, I won't show it, but I'll talk about it. It's an easy explanation. So we have two parts and pieces. Actually, I could show you those two parts and pieces.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
All right. He's going to get the two parts and pieces. I'm telling you guys, if you have not checked out Mantis at all, you have to check them out. And I forgot to run the banner on the bottom, but you definitely have to check them out. You can check them out by going to HTTPS, of course. You get MantisX.com and you can check them out. They have a lot of cool stuff there. All right. And he.
Okay, so this is trying to get on the camera there. So this is a replacement. Pull in your AR-15. You pop the pin in the upper, break it open, and you pull the charging handle in the bolt carrier group. You put this in place of it, and then this looks like a magazine because it goes where the magazine would go. And you can see on the end there's two brass contacts. That this is a battery pack, and this is the actual mechanism that goes inside your upper. And what it does in the bottom, whenever the trigger breaks, this is dry fire only. Whenever the trigger breaks, the hammer falls forward and hits this tool, and this tool cycles and it pushes that hammer back and resets it. And out the front spits a laser. So it turns your AR-15 into a trigger resetting pew-pew machine and allows you to do all sorts of dry fire practice with it without having to run the charging handle and break position. So you can go up to 10 shots a second with this thing. It's a fun dry fire tool for AR-15s. It also works with Mantis. that we are getting close to making public officially. That'll probably happen out here in a few weeks. So there's always lots of new stuff, new technology we're working on that will be released, new products besides just our core MantisX line. Again, but all designed around helping shooters improve more rapidly.
Yeah, that is awesome. I like the reset on that. What's really cool about Mantis, I'm not doing this to blow smoke up your ass or anything like this.
Please, that'd be uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's companies out there that solve problems, but there's companies like Mantis that solves problems for problems you don't know that you have, like the reset of the trigger, with breaking position. That's really cool, because I would never even thought about that, but it's really cool that you have.
Well, because oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish what you're saying. Then I'll.
Gorilla and Guns wants to know what the cost is of that system.
So the Blackbeard system depends what. There's different options. If you get no laser, you get a red or green or infrared laser. So the no laser version is $200. The red is $220. Green and IR are $250 for the complete the system. The battery pack is rechargeable. A single battery pack will last you 75,000 shots before you have to recharge it. That's a lot. It can go faster than your finger can go, and it's the actual break weight and reset of your actual trigger. So it's not some simulation trigger. And the beauty is you work this on your own setup. So just like MantisX, it goes on your gun. It's not a simulated gun. Simulated gun is better than no gun at all, but you want to train like you fight. And so if you want your gear, your grip, your trigger, everything identical so that your body remembers that. And so all of our systems are really designed around supporting that type of training.
That's really cool. Can't wait to try one of those out. That's gonna be.
We'll get one out to you so you can try it out. But really, it was designed around. This is the problem that we were having ourselves because we're frustrated because we're big dry fire advocates, right? But it's a pain to, especially on an AR, to have to drop position, run the charge and handle, and get back up. And even if you keep it up there and run the handle, it's just awkward, uncomfortable, not a lot of fun, and not like real life. We started working with the Marine Corps and the Army both last year, and that's they do a lot of dry fire training. And that was one of their issues as well. So they're both super excited about this system coming out because it solves a problem for them as well as for us.
Yeah. Do you have to use a special target with it?
Nope. Any target's fine.
That is really cool. There is a product out there that hooks up to your smartphone that actually looks at it. It's used for like laser pistols, but it looks at it to see if the laser hits on there, then it will display on your phone. So pretty sure that would work with that.
Yeah, so we are in conjunction with the Blackbeard coming out. We are releasing an app called Laser Academy that you can use the camera on your phone and any target that you want. We include some targets to make it a little bit easier for training. But so you can use like a free app on your phone to utilize and analyze your target acquisition and your shot placement with the dry fire laser practice. So that'll be coming out again simultaneous with Blackbeard in a couple weeks.
That is awesome. How has the response been to it coming out?
To Blackbeard?
Yeah.
So we haven't talked about it much. In fact, this is the first time we've really talked about it publicly since SHOT Show. And really, at SHOT Show, it was under the table. We showed it to a few friends that were like, I hear you got something in the works. You want to show me something? Kind of like, okay, come back here and we'll show it off to you. So there's a couple of videos on YouTube that people that took and posted. But beyond that, we've not talked about it one bit, largely because the prototype we had at SHOT Show was awesome. But getting something from prototype to production is a whole nother beast. And so we weren't quite sure exactly when that time frame would be. And we knew that once we had the time frame and we launched it, like we'd sell a ton of these things because it solves a real problem, like you said. We call it internally. We call it one of our code names for it is giggles, because you can't when the first time you use it, you're used to dry fire training an AR a certain way, right? Like,
Yeah.
pick it up, run the charging handle, get position, take my shot. Okay, break position, do that. So this time I get there, I break my shot, and I break my shot. It's kind of like, now I see how it is. You see the laser come out and hit where you intended to hit. It's just kind of like, it's kind of like that. This is really neat. This is something that I never knew. Like you said, I never knew I needed it, but now that I have it, it's like, yes, this really fits the bill of where I'm going. Especially now, like AR-15 sales have been through the roof. The slump over the last few years seems to have completely disappeared. And our hope is that we can get a lot of people to get their ARs out of their safes and really utilize them, because just like in Kenosha, like that guy was the kid, regardless of motive and whatever else, like that was the most effective tool for the job of what he was intending to do to defend himself in that circumstance. People run after pistols, but from an accuracy and maneuverability and utility perspective, it's hard to be an AR-15.
Yeah, it definitely is. I just checked, and I have a black bear that's coming to me.
Oh, wait. Yeah. No, I remember we did put that in for you, so you got to play around with it and not show it up.
Yeah, which is really cool, because one of the things that I've been running into is I shoot a lot. I shoot probably 500 to 1,000 rounds a week.
Really? Live fire? Yeah. That's awesome. Fire.
Yeah, well, I have companies that give me ammo. But even though I have companies that give me ammo right now, there's an ammo shortage. And one of the issues that they're having is getting the primers and everything else for their ammo. So I can't get ammo right now. So I'm like, do I fire it or do I not? Do I hold on to it?
Because you don't know when you're going to get the next box, right? So you conserve it. Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are in that same boat. Like I have some staved up, but like it's all about dry fire training right now, man, until I see it well stocked on the shelves and, priced right, because the stuff you see is usually overpriced. Makes you a little bit shy about, yeah, makes you gun shy about buying a box or two, just because, it's crazy times, man. Hope those primers come in. But we saw this shortage. What was it, 6 or 7 years ago?
Yeah, during Sandy Hook. Yeah,
and that lasted a couple of years, if I remember correctly.
Years. And talking to people in the industry, I talked to a bunch of people from big ammo manufacturers. This is nothing like it was back then. They're saying this is a lot more severe, because they're having issues getting components in the actual raw materials to make the stuff.
So the reloaders are really, before the reloaders weren't quite as prominent, and now they've jumped into the game and bought up that stuff as well.
Well, it's not only that; it's getting the materials for the aluminum and everything, whatever, the brass. I guess I don't know why I said aluminum, but the brass to make the bullets and everything else. It's actually getting that raw material, which they didn't have an issue with before. It was just production. But now it's like, well, we can't even get the raw material.
So, but do they think that the demand is also stronger, or it's just a supply issue, or is it?
They're saying it's a combination of both.
Okay.
So they're saying it's going to last a lot longer than the last time.
Yeah, and depending on the election outcome and all the associated shenanigans with all that, this could go on for 5 years, right?
Yeah, which is scary. So you guys are in the perfect position. I know you guys don't want to be in that position, but
well, we want to be in the position, but for the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons.
Right reasons, yeah.
So I don't like fear-based sales. I like, I enjoy doing this. Is I want to be more responsible. That's why I'm doing this, as opposed to I'm freaked out, so I'm going to go out and make an impulse purchase, which we're not an impulse purchase product, but it's an interesting times.
Yeah, like Gorilla and Guns brings up the fact that Extreme Bullets have a brass exchange program. So that's how hard it is to get the brass. They actually like, hey, you can give us your brass.
Interesting.
Huh. Yeah, so it's a lot different from the last time. I talked to, I can't say who because it was a president of a massive ammunition company. And he's like, yeah, this isn't going away anytime soon.
Interesting.
And the ammo companies are bidding against each other to try to actually get the raw materials.
Which means prices that when it is available are just going to be sky high.
Yeah, they're going to be sky high because they're paying a lot more. They're paying in some cases like 70 to 100% more than what they were a couple years ago.
Rough stuff. Dry fire practice, man. Dry fire practice. Stay sharp.
Yeah, and I think people have to embrace that. You can't just stop training because you can't get ammo.
Yep. There's no excuse to not train. And you don't have to buy a Mantis device to train. Will you be more effective? Yes, but there's tons of stuff you can do without technology just to get comfortable. Weapon handling, situational stuff, just base like holster draws, just the consistency of all these different. Just do it.
Yeah, you definitely have to do it. There is, I think, with the Belgians who can't get ammo for the training. So that when they do this is the military. So when they're doing the military training, instead of actually doing firing, they're going bang, 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 bang.
They yell it.
Yeah, they yell it. They're yelling bang, bang.
That's crazy. That's just crazy. So in an actual war, they're going to scare off their enemies by yelling because they'll be so trained, right?
Yeah, well, I think it's because they want to keep the ammo in case they get into an actual war, and they're having issues. So if big government is having issues,
that does not bode well for the rest of us.
Yeah. Do you see more militaries around the world embracing stuff like Mantis?
Good question. So the Chinese and the Russians, I'm just kidding. No, not the Chinese, not the Russians. We were approached a couple of years ago by a Chinese distributor saying, hey, I got ends with the Chinese military and I could sell a ton of these. And we said, no, thank you. No, thank you. In fact,
Principle.
Yeah, it's just it's just not about the money. It's about we know what their plans are for the future, and that involves not us. And so, yeah. Anyways, but military wise, yes, what's in militaries move super slow. We are not military focused. Our business model is not based around selling to the military like a lot of other companies are. Ours is the consumer market, civilian, the Second Amendment guy and gal. But right now the Army is using it. The Marine Corps is using it. If you go to Marine Corps has 2 training bases for their recruits, one at Paris Island, South Carolina, one in San Diego, California, and about 50-50 in each one of those. And as of 3 weeks ago, finally, after it's taken some time for them to kind of get all their ducks in a row, but every single new recruit that comes through Paris Island is training with Mantis. And so they're getting this, they do a whole week of dry fire before they go to live fire at the range. And they're using Mantis as part of that dry fire grass week training. Then some of them utilize it on the range. We're also working on a project with, and then the Army Infantry School out of Fort Benning is using it as well. The UK MOD is coming to us, and it came to us a little over a year ago, and said, we like the system. What can we do? How can we work together? So we're working on a sizable project with them, kind of a proof of concept, and hopefully it rolls into something bigger next year. But we talked to militaries, probably 30 or 40 different countries. They are, because military organizations are big and hairy and messy, it takes a little while for them to shift. So we'll see how that evolves over time. If it works out, great. If not, great. Again, our business isn't based on that, but we do like the feeling that, these guys are putting their lives on the line. And if we can do a little bit to help them and maybe save a few lives in the process because their marksmanship is a little bit stronger, then I'm 100% behind that. In fact, the colonel that helped bring it into the Marine Corps out at Paris Island, I was with him a little over a year ago doing a tour of some facilities, just talking about stuff. And we were just talking about, he did so many tours over the Middle East and had so many crazy stories and all this stuff. And I said, I'm a civilian, don't have any military experience, and kind of I'm at a loss for words and how you can talk to a veteran and say, how do you say thanks? Because words mean nothing to a guy who probably almost died. Half his buddies died. He's got PTSD the rest of his life because of things he saw and can't unsee. Like, my thanks just feels so weak. Like it's like nothing compared to this. And so how can I express proper thanks? And he instantly turned to me and said, well, he's like, you're already showing gratitude by building products that help us do our job better. He said, if I could tell you I can't tell you how many times, like, you're doing a post firefight analysis and you see one of your buddies dead because he couldn't manipulate his firearm properly. You know, his fingers wrapped around the trigger and the safety's still on. Or, you know that this guy barely made it through qualification, and in a firefight, if you'd been a bit stronger, maybe it wouldn't have fallen. So he said, if we can just increase the proficiency of the marksmanship of the Marine Corps, where every Marine is a rifleman, we're going to win wars faster, we're going to lose less lives, and we're going to become a stronger nation as a result of it. So that was his vision. You know, maybe we have a small piece in that, in helping to elevate their marksmanship proficiency, help them run more efficiently as well, to help contribute. And hopefully our allies can, if there's value to be gained by our allies as well, we're all in this together, and hopefully that comes to fruition as well. Yeah,
that's an awesome story. It probably makes you feel really good to hear stuff like that. It makes me feel good to hear stuff like that if I've been involved in the product. So do you have anything else on the horizons past the Blackbeard that you can talk about, or you can't talk about?
I can't talk about. I will tell you this though. We don't talk about stuff in the future, largely because, well, I mean, from a competitive positioning perspective, we don't want to release too much, but also just because, there's stuff that gets announced, and then people are like, oh yeah, it'll happen in 6 months, and then it's 2 years later, and they're like, is it going to happen? So we don't want to set expectations incorrectly in that regard. But I will tell you a little bit about what's coming in the future based off of what's happened in the past, and that is MantisX, the system for pistols, rifles, shotguns, archery. It's the app software. We continue to improve that. New features, new updates, new courses, new drills. The community around it, like, all of that's growing. All those updates are free. They come to your phone. We push out several updates a month. So that ecosystem is really will continue to grow and provide more and more capability. If you look at 5 years ago, when we pushed out, almost 5 years ago, a little over 4.5 years ago, we pushed out the first version of the app, and what it is. What it was then, what it is now is like night and day. And we got guys that bought it 4.5 years ago, still using the app, still using the hardware, and it's just like, what it gave them then is 10% of what it gives them now. And a couple of years from now, or even next year, there's going to be 3 or 4 times as much stuff in there that you can do to engage in different ways to really push your marksmanship capability up to the next level. So just look for lots and lots of software updates. There's some more hardware things in the works, more electromechanical things in the works, more smart technology things in the works. There's a lot of stuff we play around with and prototype, and kind of, they say, hey, does this have legs? But we'll see if there's a growing market. One thing, if you dig back, I'll talk about this one briefly, because there's if you dig in our social media feeds, you'll probably find something there. But there's AR glasses, and those aren't mainstream yet, but we built a prototype of visual feedback when you're shooting in the AR glasses. So it looks like normal, but you take a shot and you see the feedback right there, and so you're not breaking to look down to see what might have happened. And you have a better, again, you get that visual sense along with the audio and the tactile response and everything else that makes it an engaging experience. Is it for everybody? I don't know. Is it really cool? Yeah, absolutely. Is it one of those things that will probably need to wait until everyone has a set of AR glasses? Probably. The reason why Mantis exists today and it didn't exist 20 years ago is because 20 years ago people didn't have smartphones, and even 10 years ago, like, it was much less prevalent than it is now. But Mantis as a system would cost you $1,000 if you already didn't have a $500 or $600 phone in your pocket that enables that. And so the AR glasses right now, you're going to pay $1,000 for a set of AR glasses, and no one's going to pay for that in addition to a Mantis for that experience. But if they already had a set, and we'd have an application for it, then it would seem to make sense that could be utilized. One thing you will see a bit more of as well is potentially integration. So if you think about Mantis in other things, so it's kind of a combined product rather than having two separate products bolted on. If you have a unified product, it makes it a little bit more seamless, a little bit more user friendly. Those are some things that we're working on as well. As well as just some general technological things that maybe again, you hadn't thought that you needed, but when it comes out, you'll be like, oh, that solves a real problem. And I'm really grateful that that Mantis has been working on this to solve their own problems first, and that it's happened to be the same problem as I'm having. So that's, again, kind of our mantra is we solve these problems for ourselves first and foremost. And if it solves that problem for us, then we're happy to provide that solution to other people as well.
Yeah. Our chat's broken, so like Rogue Banshee, and I see everyone out there, our chat's broken again, of course. Not all the chats are coming through. It's kind of what happens when you go from your system in the studio to a cloud-based service to another service, then out, and everything coming through that little ecosystem there.
Yep.
It's not exactly perfect.
The bleeding edge of technology, right? But it's good to be when it works.
Yeah, exactly. One of the final questions I have is, with all the new ideas that you guys are coming up with, how do you come up with them? Do you have a meeting and say, "Hey, anybody have an idea?" Or do you have like a suggestion box? How does the new ideas come to fruition?
Good question. So the team here is awesome. Just great group of people. Everyone up and down the line has a lot of ideas, and we foster that kind of culturally. We started years ago. We started this thing called Invention Lunch, where once a week we sit down and have lunch together, and the purpose is to share ideas you've had for solutions to problems in your life. And we document it. We actually built a little software piece, a little web-based portal where you can enter those ideas. Then at the end, we vote kind of bracket style, and there's a declared winner, just kind of a fun little weekly adventure. But over the course of the years, right now in the database, there's like 4,000 ideas. And some of these ideas are horrible. Like, you'd never, ever want to or think of seeing something like this in the market, but out of bad ideas sometimes comes a good idea. But just that process of, rather than just like thinking, oh, I'm so frustrated with this problem, we start thinking, oh, maybe instead of a frustration, it's actually an opportunity to find a solution to that problem. It's kind of a mindset that a lot of people here have that it's fun to be a part of. And so now that's kind of part one. Part two, or say part A and part B, is really we listen really closely to our user base. So people that use Mantis send us suggestions all the time, like, this is amazing, can you guys do this? And we'll put it on the list, and we'll kind of evaluate it and see where it fits, whether or not we think it's worthwhile for us and for other people. And then a lot of those ideas we build into the product. So we pride ourselves on being very responsive to the customer, listening to what they have to say, listen to suggestions, and really allowing them to put outside the box ideas maybe into our wheelhouse, in addition to our kind of own internal innovation that we generate. So yeah, it's just kind of fun to be working on new stuff, and the more new stuff we work on, the kind of more ideas we have for other new stuff that we want to be working on as well.
The Rogue Banshee is saying that your support is awesome.
Glad to hear that. If everyone says it's not awesome, come talk to me and I'll make that happen. We want to treat people like we want to be treated, like that Discover card commercial or whatever. Like, but yeah,
we treat you the way you would want to be treated or whatever.
Yeah. Talk to people like they want to be, like you want to be talked to, and support them like you want to be supported. So yeah, we support our customers a lot. In fact, we spend a lot of money in customer support. But we care about customers. Ultimately, it's more than the money. It's about really building products that help solve people's problems, and customer support is part of that as well.
All right. Well, we've been on for about an hour, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm going to give you the final word, but I just want to remind a couple of different people, people of a couple different things. Sorry, I can't talk this morning. I had to write like 5 different stories today, so yeah.
My brain, I understand.
Knocking them out. You can support me, which all the funds go to my niece Bella at patreon.com/John Crump. PayPal, paypal.me/JohnCC. My book, which all the proceeds will go to my niece, like everything else, at Cruppy.com/giants, or you can join GOA at gunowners.org/black-swan-media, and you will get 25% off. I am going to give you the last word, Austin. What do you want the people out there to know? And I'll
Uh,
put the website up on the screen as well.
Pray for John's niece. Donate. Help her out. It's a good
Yeah, you
cause.
guys are awesome on that, by the way.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, why do we do what we do? It's because of our families, because of our relationships, people close to us. So yeah, we get excited about cool whiz bang, this, that, or the other thing. But at the end of the day, like, what's most important? Taking care of those people. So I'll give the last word. Like, that's the last word is support John and his niece and help out where you can, guys.
All right. Thank you, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Austin, stick around for 1 second. I'm going to drop the video, and we are out.